Hi, welcome back to FutureFast, and we're excited to have Varad Krishnan on our show here with us. Thank you so much, Varad, for joining us today and making time. We've been haggling over time to, uh, uh, you know, get you here. And before we get started, once again, FutureFast is uh, a platform to bring people who are impacting future, who are contributing to the positive impact in the future, and also to get a perspective on what are their fears from from the point of what kind of a future we are getting into, and also how could we prepare with that. And since knowing Varad, I know I'm going to enjoy this conversation, and I hope each of you will enjoy the conversation. And once again, thank you for subscribing to our channel in whatever you're comfortable with. And so here we go, and hope you will enjoy the ride. Varad, thank you for joining once again, and jumping straight in. Can you take us through your journey, please? From a point of being a professional to what led you to become an entrepreneur to what led you to become one of the uh, key players contributing to the startup ecosystem.
First of all, thank you, Nanju. Nanju has been another long-term player in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. I know him from the days of Indian Institute of Management, NSR Cell, right? You were one of the pioneers there conducting something like, bulletproofing the entrepreneur, where you expose the entrepreneurs to investors and just about everybody in the ecosystem. They should defend themselves, right? Their idea. And I remember that you had a nice title for it also. So you were one among the few who did it, right? I always enjoyed those sessions that we used to have at NSR Set. So first thing I want to say is that yes, many such activities are required because we never get time to reflect about we just come up with an idea and we think it works, right? So that is something I'll come and say to talk about or comment on it later about what's called as the myths of entrepreneurship, right? Now let me get to the point that you asked me about why you got into entrepreneurship. It's a very valid question. This is almost like 20 years ago. I used to be until then for about 10 years of my career, now altogether 33 years. So 10 years of my career, I remember I used to be an executive working for a large company, never, need to bother about your benefits, salary, perks, and whatnot, right? It was a different life altogether. And there came a time I was, reflecting, and I was on one of those trips back to India. And when I was going around, these various towns and cities, I realized there are so many challenges, in the let's say for the society as well as the markets, and I wanted to do something about it. And by then, right, all these big companies, if you know these IT companies, we call IT giants today. They were just flowering at the time, right? In the Infosys IPO had come out, and there were others, who were also coming out. And so I just remember that that was a time everybody was getting into services because it was a low barrier entry. You cost arbitrage and nothing big deal. So that's how many companies got into it. And now, if you look at 15 to 20 years later, all those companies are slowly transformed, and we see today it's all about innovation, right? And we're trying to create IP because the government is also incentivizing you to get into that. So that is what happened to me. I didn't want to continue the same lifestyle. I wanted to do some innovation, some impact. So that's how I got into entrepreneurship. And the companies that I used to work for became my clients. So that is a nice situation where you don't need to look around for clients, right? And your own alma mater, or your own organization that you used to work for, where you build trust and credibility for yourself, it's easy to sell whatever you want to sell, right? So that's how it started, Sananju. And then I scaled this company to about 1,500 people, listed it in the BSE. It became 50 times oversubscribed, right? And today we hear about all this, about IPO and all that. But that was a very tough time because we didn't have this something called this venture capital, right? That is so much money today in the marketplace. There's so many grants available, so many incentives available. That was a time when I was starting out. There was no such thing. In fact, you have to um, pledge or mortgage your property to get money, and that's how it happened to me too. And fortunately, I was able to turn it around and return all the money back to the bank and wherever I borrowed from. So that's the story, right? And once I had been through that tough journey, right? Today's world, it's much, much easier. There's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur today. Um, but those were tough times, right? And and then get into the IPO. Uh, Now, of course, again, the IPO, if you see the criteria for that, it's been diluted uh, compared to what it was that time. So, all in all, I want to say that yes, when you go through very tough times, right, you always have to come out, and that is what entrepreneurship is all about, right? So we say, I've seen some time back, about a term called genius. Genius is someone, um, or you can say same thing applies to entrepreneurship. Is every time you're down, you don't let yourself down. You have to self-motivate yourself and bring you back, come what may, right? That comes a time then for maybe months together, you cannot pay salaries. Forget about your salary, that's not going to come now. But there comes a time where you cannot pay salaries of people and you have to still keep them motivated. Otherwise, they will leave. So I'm just saying I went through all those cycles. And today, the situation is very different for today's entrepreneurs, right? So that is the reason. So, I wanted to do something different and take on some challenges, solve some problems for society and markets. That's how I call it entrepreneurship. And
Well,
tasted some success.
go on, please. Go.
Yes. Tasted
Well,
some success and then went on to repeat that. I also realized that it is important that we build products and IPs as opposed to services. So I also created some companies of course, in partnership with my other co-founders. We created some great products, global products out of India and also elsewhere in the world that became great successes. So that's how, my journey continues. And today I'm like completed the whole cycle and now teaching other entrepreneurs how to do it through my accelerator.
fantastic. So before we get on to the accelerator, very, very quickly, what were the fears at that point of time, right? Obviously, our generation, particularly if you come from a middle class family, family is the last to say anything about go ahead, you're doing the right thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. So true, so true. In fact, I want to tell you that you are all alone. So let me tell you that you have to believe in yourself. There is nobody else that you can, depend on because everybody tells you not to do this. And today it is not so much of a taboo to be an entrepreneur, right? There was a time the whole society was against it, right? They say, hey, this is too risky to do. And, I can
It's not
be
for us.
exactly. And so I can be unabashed about that is that, see, they used to tell me that, don't do this because no family will give the girl to you, So I'm just telling you, that's how the societal pressures used to be. And the
On that
situation,
front, Varad, I don't think things have changed much. I have some friends who I don't want to take his name. His co-founder quit and took up a job so that he could get married.
yeah. No, no, I'm coming to see today's situation is different. Today you are hailed as a hero. right? If you were to become an entrepreneur, there are people lining up. So the world has changed
Oh,
in
no,
20
no.
years.
No, this happened 4 years ago. I'm saying even today,
Yeah,
uh, many places, in fact, one other friend, he was telling me, I mean, I'm talking about much younger friends, uh, who's in his 20s. So obviously a very different generation. So who's looking at getting married, and people actually ask, who's your investor? Is your investor a A-lister? So, so I think the problem persists,
yeah,
but in a different way.
yeah. So I agree. But I must tell you now, it is not a taboo anymore, right? It is the way it used to be
Correct.
that society doesn't approve of it. That perception has changed. So that is what
Completely.
I
Completely.
wanted to bring
Correct.
it up, you know. Mm.
Correct. Correct. So, what does future mean to you, Varad? I mean, someone like you, obviously, scared is the last thing, right? Right. I mean, I think it's also some sense of a problem for entrepreneurs, right? We are eternally optimistic. So, so
Yeah,
keeping aside this aspect, what does future mean to you?
yeah, that's a good point. See, many times what happens is, right, you know, you have to take on the world and see, you know, that entrepreneurship, it's all about getting into an unknown, you know, like this, what you call, it's a series of crossroads. You know, that's how I describe um, entrepreneurship. You know, sometimes you may get to the right place in 5 to 6 crossroads. Sometimes you have to go to 30 crossroads before finding the right one. And so it is a journey where nobody has gone before. So you are probably the first one who gets there. And that fear is always there, whether this is the right way to go, or, you know, or you're on a wrong path. That that fear always hits you, you know. And if someone is saying that, you know, it's not like that, they're not being truthful, right? So I'm just saying that's always there in your mind. You're going there first, and you do not know. Then you take certain steps and move, maybe to the left or right, only to realize that was not the wrong. That was the wrong path, and you have to retrace, or, you know, you have to continue further. So that is how philosophically, you know, I would say, at a certain stage in your entrepreneurship journey, you look like a karma yogi. You know, like you become like a karma yogi in the sense you're not looking at the end result anymore. You are. It's a long journey that you have to continue to put effort, and one day you'll succeed. And so it is like very philosophical, right? At a certain point in life, it becomes like that. And so one of the things I teach people, you know, in entrepreneurship is about being patient with themselves, also with the journey that they've taken on. And it's very, very hard, you know, and, you know, only 1%, you know that, right? Especially in deep tech, it is very less percentage who succeed. And you look at it today globally, it's about 5%, you know, is the success rate, 95% failures. And the, let's say like this, the sector that you're going to start up, certain sectors are like prime for disruption. Anything you start will become success. There are certain sectors which is like very deep seated, very deep rooted. It's going to take some years to disrupt it. So that is what I meant by saying, you know, you need to be patient with yourself, right? Because the whole ecosystem also needs to evolve, and whatever you're bringing out as an innovation should be accepted. People should be able to try it out. When I say people, I'm talking about the whole ecosystem. They should be willing to experiment it, try it out. Um, if that mindset is there, then this definitely can happen. So, talking about the future, I see the future where you know, more and more ecosystems will evolve, and the way it is going to evolve. For example, take EV, right? We are all talking about EV today. The electric vehicle. So if you see, everyone is talking about it because there's a need for the way we live to be changed, because there's so much pollution created. the fossil fuels are running out, and it is also not good for the planet, right? It's heating up, and all those issues. So because of that, there is a compelling reason for us to move to EV, and this is an area which is very ripe for innovation. I will say a lot of disruption is already taking place, whether it is a technology relating to the battery storage of energy, how energy is generated, very different types of energies. Like we're talking about green hydrogen, we're talking about also solar. Even vehicles are being experimented where
Yeah,
the
I
solar
do
cells are.
think it's a little early stage from a point of the way it's being pushed for adoption and
Yeah.
our own readiness. That is a flag for me, uh,
Yeah. So
because
I what I'm trying to convey to you is that every such sector you look at, the whole ecosystem has to support, and
absolutely, absolutely.
whether it's industry, whether it's government, the early adopters, so to say, the investors, the universities, research ecosystem, everybody has to support. And once that support comes, then this innovation can happen much easily
Correct.
because everybody is now going to support that entrepreneur, that cause. So that is every sector I'm talking about, right? This kind of disruption can come. And so that is the way I see the future where it will evolve, where we all collaboratively work together and make that adoption easier for whatever innovation or technology that's coming out. We would like to test it. We would like to, give that opportunity to the entrepreneurs. And, you know,
How do you personally prepare towards this kind of a collaborative future as you see?
yes. So one of the things I notice is that certain cultures we collaborate, certain cultures we don't collaborate. We tend to compete. So that's one common complaint, right? In India, we notice is that everybody does everything, and there is no need to do that, right? So let us say that you have done for first 5 steps. You have to say do about 100 steps to reach somewhere. You've done 5 steps. I'd rather build on those 5 steps. What happens in India is that we recreate that 5 steps all over again.
Exactly.
Imagine the amount of energy, amount of investment, effort that goes every time you restart, refresh. It's such a waste of resources. So this is something, as a culture we have to change. We are very competing culture. We compete with each other so much. Either we finish off the other guy, we finish off ourselves. At the end of it, that industry doesn't exist. So I'm just saying, it's time to change. It's time
Don't you
to.
think it's slowly changing towards that?
Yeah. So I'm telling you, there's a lot of
A
advocacy,
lot.
a lot of
Still, yeah.
discussions like this, has to happen, so that the without naming anything, right? I want to tell you there are certain pieces in this ecosystem. They are far more arrogant, far more, let's say, they think there's a halo around the head or something like that, and that ego is actually preventing them from collaborating. And so, we have to shed that ego and imagine this is a country where Veda was created and all that, right? Upanishad, we talk about all that proudly, but we don't practice it, right?
Yeah,
We push.
in many sense, we were the first truly open source society.
Yeah, and we always say, things like, everything is inside you, God is inside you, and all that, right? So, what is happening is, on the one hand, we teach all this, but practice is
In
zero.
practice, it is inside me, not you.
Yeah, it is only applicable to you, not to me. So, yeah, so that I see is the change, that need to come. And as you rightly said, some of these have started. And I think many more to come, a lot more to happen.
Who are the people you think people are organizations who are working towards this side? I mean, okay, let's
This,
not talk about who are resisting it. So,
yeah,
who are those who are actually trying to build this? It could be individuals you want to talk about, or
yeah.
organization.
So I would say, this being a podcast, right? I don't want to be, naming anyone here. So I would say, to be politically correct, So it starts with the leaders, right? In every organization or any kind of you see ecosystem, the leaders have to do this. And what I mean that it could be like a CXO, it could be the head of an organization, etc. If it's a country, the head of the country. So everyone has to start practicing it and live by that
But anybody
example.
you have noticed who's actually working towards that?
Yeah.
A few
So
people you have noticed.
yeah. So some of the people, right? I can easily name those who have that not for profit motive, right? So we see today the grassroots level entrepreneurship being encouraged in a big way. We also see that there is a lot of organizations, supporting entrepreneurship in, I would say, rural areas, villages, and so on. Right? There's so much going on there. So I would say, all those people who have become successful, in the cities or in other, I would call countries, they are now coming back to contribute because they have now wealth. The power of wealth is actually to contribute. So they are now able to invest into this. And so one of them I can boldly name is Deshpande, Deshpande out of Hubli, like the startups,
The
Hubli
Deshpande
startups,
Foundation is
Deshpande Foundation.
exactly.
And, he's done so much work actually, even for the farming community, the agriculturists, and so on. So I'm just naming one. There are likewise, there's also BB Jagdish, BBJ, well known. So he's also doing some phenomenal work. And so I'm just saying there are people like this who are already doing it, and it's a great example for us to follow. So these are the people who are making the change. They have themselves become successful and successful entrepreneurs in other geographies or other regions, and now they're coming back to contribute back into their parent country, where they came from. And so there are such examples. I gave you two, but then there are many others in other countries as well. So these are the people, these are the change makers. They are leading the way, and I'm sure
But
this is how the change is made.
who are the people who are personally, who are the people who you think have shaped you to be the person that you are, or the way you think today, right? Do you want to talk about them? Anybody?
Yeah. So some of these, right? I draw a lot of inspiration from our own, I would say, scriptures, right? So if people like your Shankaracharya, and I can tell you there are so many saints like that. So you can learn a lot from their philosophies, how they were also entrepreneurs, in their own ways, but they were talking about philosophy. They were talking about building a certain kind of thinking, so that you develop a peaceful way of living. You give and take. You're empathetic to others. You have gratitude for what you get, and so on. So these basic fundamentals, principles of life, is something people like Sankaracharya taught us, and people like that are what is inspiring me. And they are not there here, but then the work they did is something
Oh
that
yeah,
the legend,
I think
like I can,
that
the
that
legacy.
that would be like an Everest. Someone barefoot walked across India three times,
Right.
and within the age of 34, which is like
Yes.
which is like we can't
And
even
then of
imagine.
course,
So, and those days.
yeah, and another one, of course, is Swami Vivekananda, right? So he also got inspired by all these teachings and Prabhupada, and so we know a lot of such people who have their works are very similar, and they all convey one truth, right? The truth is that it's all about these best principles that we call it, right? There's certain principles in life. We need to be disciplined, um, and you have to observe, like I gave you the examples in the beginning about being patient, being like sympathetic to others, empathetic to others, and more importantly, the gratitude. So these are the basic tenets in life. If you have that fundamentals, you are ready to be an entrepreneur. That's how I'd like to say.
Wow. Varad, any recommendations that you want to make? I think I could probably already visualize that any Advaita readings that you probably follow, or are there
Well,
podcasts that you follow you want to recommend? I mean, apart from that, whatever you at a personal
yeah.
development
So
or
I will tell you. I will tell you another thing, right? Though I talked about the principles for entrepreneurship, it all comes from philosophy. There's a lot of you can learn. Like I said, from the scriptures and the Vedas, there's a lot you can learn. But I'm just fast forwarding to the future, right? What's going to happen in the future? I read one of those. I love reading, non-fiction. I don't read much of fiction because fiction is all theoretical, right? Or something which is, I can say, non-real. It's not realistic. But I love reading non-fiction. And so when I look at it, there's one great work done by one of the professors, uh, Professor Smith. So he wrote one book called uh, The New North. I recommend everyone to read this book. And this book is about, the lack of fresh water. You see, all over the world, the freshwater sources are drying up. And he predicts by 2050, there'll be no fresh water left in any part of the world. And it will be only in the northern region. And he calls this region as New North. So, what is New North? You can say this, the present Canada, some parts of the US, then Scandinavia. So, if you know that polar circle, right? Around that, the North Pole, nearer to the North Pole, so you can say about 30 degrees latitude. So, if you look at from the North Pole down to about 30 degrees or so, that region is called, this Arctic Circle. So, that area is what is predicted to be the new north. And that's because apparently by 2050, there'll be no fresh water left except in that region. And people are all going to move towards that. And that means, it's going to create a lot of
so
challenges.
those who control that will control the world.
And so it is going to be a different challenge. So, see, I'll tell you that maybe some of these things may not happen, but at least it's heightened. The awareness and the dangers facing the world today. So if we put effort today, right, we still have about, say, 27 years to go, we can still make some change, right? So I was witness to what happened in Cape Town in 2018. I had gone with my family there, and I could really see a country where water is being rationed, like 50 liters ration per day per person. And imagine such a situation where to come to India, what we will do. It's not very far off, right? We are not thinking about it today, but it is coming. And what happened in COVID is a great warning to all of us. Many times, we think some of the things will never happen, but
Varad, I'll hold you to these things, or rather, I'll bring you back to these things for your predictions of the future.
yeah,
Uh, but this is very interesting. I'd really like to talk on that. Uh,
yeah,
but just stepping back, any other recommendations from you, Varad, for book,
yeah. So
podcast, movies,
other one is Zero to One. So one of the greatest books on startups,
Peter
right?
Thiel?
So we are talking about today. The topic is about entrepreneurship and innovation in startups. So I would recommend this book called Zero to One, and this book is something. It's like I said, nobody should miss it. Anyone wants to get into entrepreneurship should read about it, and it is something that you should keep in your library. Just order it from Amazon, you will get it. That's a very, very strong recommendation I would like to make. And whatever you may learn in theory, like in MBA schools or other types of programs available today in various universities, this book is written on practical experiences. And so this is something I would like to recommend very strongly.
Fantastic. Great. Varad, thank you so much for sharing your journey, and reach you very soon to connect with and talk about your business initiatives and your thoughts on the startup ecosystem soon. So, my dear audience, listeners, wherever, whatever platform you're listening, and I hope you're having a great time. And I really urge you to come back and listen to Varad talking about what he's doing now and how he's building it, and also about that accelerator and how perhaps any of you could benefit out of it. Thank you so much once again, and take care.